Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our third of the Financial Fridays series that we have for you today. We do have a few stragglers coming in. I just wanted to remind everybody that we are recording this webinar and we'll place it on our YouTube channel. For those of you who are attending for the first time and just meeting me for the first time, I'm Sheila Folk, the CEO and founder of Travel Industry Solutions. If you are attending for the first time, you will receive replays of sessions 1 and sessions 2. So today, we're going to talk about organizing and simplifying your bookkeeping. We're going to dive a little bit deeper and cover things like choosing your tools, how to build a chart of accounts, creating a monthly routine for yourself, and so much more. So, without further ado, I'm going to invite Radhika and Swagat onto the call with us. To introduce themselves, they are with Olaham, the channel partner we use for bookkeeping and tax prep services. And oh, by the way, I will include the link to the free download for today's session inside of the chat. And I will include the link to sign up for your free consultation with Olaham should you choose to do so. So, welcome, guys. It's so good to see your face. I know that this is a super crazy time of year for you, and we were just talking
Mhm.
about
Yeah.
that. So, I do really appreciate having you guys here in January, and then, of course, for our final session in February. So, thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks, Sheila,
Mm.
for
Mhm.
having
Mhm.
us.
All right, so I'm going to let you guys just take it away. And if you want, Radhika, go ahead and start sharing your screen. And as a reminder to everybody, if you do have questions, you can put them in the Q&A. We will reserve time at the end for any questions that you may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So today's session is not going to be a long one. We have, taken a look at the earlier sessions. We basically took a look at, how gap reporting and bookkeeping should be in detail. Then we went on to see what tax deductions, the businesses can have. I think that session was a very interesting one. I hope that you guys, received the PowerPoint and you have gone through all the details that we mentioned in that. Today, what we want to talk about is over these sessions, we have found out that a lot of you with complicated businesses have, signed up with somebody. But I wanted to have a look at today's session for everyone because I know that not all of you need somebody doing your bookkeeping. So today we are kind of focusing on empowering you guys to handle your books yourself, and that's what we are going to talk to you about. It's not super complicated, but we just wanted to give a head start to anybody who has been probably just doing bookkeeping on a sheet, or keeping their numbers that way. We want to show you like the different tools that you guys can use, and how that can properly structure the way that bookkeeping is handled by you or anybody on your staff. So the basic tools for somebody who doesn't have a lot going on, I think these are the three most important, or most bang for the buck or value for money that we find. My favorite is QuickBooks Online. I know that it's paid, but the lower versions are quite cheap. and quite cost effective. It helps you tremendously to, simplify the way that you are handling things. The bank feeds are automated. You see everything, flowing in one place. You have great reports that you can pass on to, your EA or your CPA for filing taxes. And it's quite handy because it has a mobile app as well. So it's very easy for you to go and check what is going on your books, or what is your bank balance as of today. Are there any pending dues that are getting highlighted on the software? So that one is particularly my favorite. But if you don't want to use any software, I would say that, Excel is one of the greatest tools still used by any accountants. You can have really, really good free templates that you find online that can help you, manage all your expenses, your income on different sheets. And these, free sheets are also very cool. They have a dashboard in the front, so they will also give you kind of a heads up on what exactly is going on with your books. Google Sheets is something that businesses have started using a lot more because of collaborating with different people in the business. If you're solely managing your bookkeeping, I would say that stick to Excel, because it's vast and there's a lot more you can do with it. If there's somebody else managing the books with you, I think Google Sheets is a very, very handy way of, collaborating with your team members to manage books.
Yes. So, coming to the next sheet. So once one of you decides which software to use, we actually prefer, or any accountant would be preferring QuickBooks Online, because it is very easy to use and a robust system to use. So once you decide to use any accounting software, the first and foremost thing you need to do is the setup of chart of accounts. So chart of accounts, you always get a free chart of accounts designated by QuickBooks. But what I feel is that for travel industry, there are four parts which, or four ledgers where groups which you should be focusing on. First is the revenue accounts. So the 4,000 to 4,999, this is the standard number which is given to each of the accounts. So 4,100 is for planning fees. So we have just noted down the most commonly used and which should be, or important ledgers which should be used by each of the travel industry businessmen. So the first is in revenue account, the planning fees. Second is commissions earned. Third is override commissions, and fourth is referral fees. So these are the major chunk of your streams of income which should be recorded separately in each of the accounts. Try not to mix them. Also try to bifurcate each of them according to your major customers, if you can. So if there are some commission earned on specific trips, try to make that sub account in commission earned. So if there is an Africa trip, someone is doing that majorly, you try to bifurcate into Africa trip, how much you earn from that trip. Someone is doing Australia, or you are doing multiple trips, try to bifurcate them in those trips. So you can always know your numbers very well and can understand at the first go that from where your revenue is coming and what is the percentage of revenue you are earning from that.
Swagat, so
Coming
you,
to the
sorry,
second.
Swagat, I want to interrupt you real quick and I want to
Yes,
understand that
sure,
point real quick.
sure.
So that's an interesting point, is to associate revenue with regions. So do you see most often that people are doing it with regions or by product type? Let's say Royal Caribbean, Regent Seven Seas,
Yes.
etc. So what is, I mean, is there any right or wrong way to do that? I guess it just depends on the agency's business and how they do business.
Yes, yes. Actually, there is no right or there is no thumb rule to do the bifurcation. But majorly, what I think is, or any accountant would be feeling is that you should be bifurcating according to your major streams of income. So someone, if it is focused on region, so you should be having those region wise, or if it is focused on the cruise lines, then you should be having those according to your cruise line. So it would give you more clarity from where the revenues are coming and what should you be focusing as an entrepreneur on that.
Okay,
So
thank
And
you.
that's
and
it.
and even though it's a small benefit of having these numbers, I think, as accountants, why we have these numbers is you get very used to punching in, those numbers,
Comparing.
and that's how you find the right account. So if somebody is doing their own bookkeeping, this also helps to minimize the errors that go into bookkeeping, because we as accountants, if somebody tells me cost of goods, it's very natural for me to go to the 5,000 range and search for something in that range while punching the numbers. So I think that if somebody is using QuickBooks, it becomes very easier for you to find the accounts when you're doing your bookkeeping yourself. So that's just a way of we arranging things and wiring our brains to, because accounting is monotonous, there's no two ways about it. It's boring. It's just, this makes it a lot quicker.
Well, to me, it gives me financial clarity as to where my business is coming from. So anyway, I think that's a great thought. I had not thought about that inside of my business early on. Thank you.
Okay. So, continuing this further, coming to the cost of goods sold. So here there are three parts. First is the agent payouts. So remember, cost of the major difference between cost of goods sold and the operating expenses is that it's a direct expense. Something which is a direct expense for making you a sale, it should be actually punched into cost of goods sold. For manufacturing or for product businesses, it is very easy to understand what is cost of goods sold. It's like raw materials and the transport to bring in those raw materials. But for a service industry where you are selling the invisible, the cost of goods sold is always a direct expense which makes you crystallize that sale or makes that sale happen. So it's direct agent payouts, or it might be the supplier refunds, or it might be the host agency fees, which makes you able to do your sales directly. So in this also, you can always bifurcate it according to your revenue stream. So region wise, is cruise line wise, etc., etc. So it gives you more clarity. In QuickBooks, you will also find a feature where you can compare this with the previous years, and also you can have a percentage of these numbers with your total sales. So that's a great thing to analyze, that how much percentage of cost of goods sold has risen for X amount of sales, and why is it so? What is the deviation that is happening this year? You can check that. So coming to the third point is the operating expense. So operating expenses are nothing but the indirect expenses which are, or the overheads which are required to do your day-to-day business. It is like admin expenses, the technology subscription, marketing, professional development, office expenses, like that. Also the interest and finance costs, those go to the operating expenses. Here majorly for travel agencies, major part would be of the CRM booking platforms, or your advertising costs, or the fam trips. Those would be going in that, because it's more related to the marketing advertisement things. So these are the three parts of the chart of accounts. The fourth part is the balance sheet accounts. So in balance sheet accounts, majorly like we talked in the last seminar, the major four parts you need to concentrate and focus is, or you need to track, is account receivables, accounts payables, client deposits held, which is a liability for your business if the trip has not yet happened, and the fourth is unearned revenue, which is the advanced planning fees which you have received in your balance sheet. So though the balance sheet, so these are the major accounts which you should be having, you must have in your chart of accounts, and rest would be following. Means those are generally the same or common for everyone, and it is always there in QuickBooks Online, or you can just take it online. That's not an issue.
I wanted to mention a couple of things too, just to have a reminder here for everybody that some of the concepts that we are talking about inside of the Financial Fridays webinars won't apply to hosted advisors who are, collecting payments into their own bank accounts. So I encourage you, if you have not watched the two previous webinars, to go back and look at those so that the balance sheet accounts that we just spoke about make a little bit more sense to you and you'll
Yes.
understand a little bit more. Also, we did get a question about why is override commissions separate. Melissa, we did talk a lot about how travel advisors do need to be claiming bonus
Mhm.
commissions, override commissions, FAM trips, things of that nature. We did speak about that in one of the previous webinars as well. We do encourage you to have a separate line item for that. And really, you want to
Mhm.
be as granular as possible when setting up your books because it helps you to make better business decisions for yourself, including like operating expenses. And Radhika and Swagath, you can disagree with me, but I
Yes.
even drill down further, as you guys know, because you do my books. So, for instance, under office and administration or administrative, I may have another category like 6401, which would be insurance. And then I might have another
Yes.
category that would be 6402, which would be office expenses. So you can actually drill down a little bit further. So,
Yes.
Melissa, I hope that answers your question about why the override is separate. You want to have something that is more granular. And also her question to Radhika and Swagath, is this more of a bonus commission section versus an override commission section, or do you put bonuses and overrides in the same bucket?
I mean, it
So
depends on,
generally,
it depends on what the
yeah,
business
depends
wants
on
to do.
that.
You can have two separate categories or one. Generally, what I suggest for any business is that when you start off, I would not have like crazy number of, details in the books because it's difficult for you to maintain. But as you start learning more about what really is happening in your business, is you when you look at a particular account and if you see a lot of kind of wavy transactions. For example, one month it's like 200, the next month it's 800. That's I would consider anything above $500 a big deviation. So you understand better on whether you want to track or go deeper into that category and divide it according to different items. Because let's say you have office supplies and different things clubbed together, you will never understand what your real expenses are on a category that's fluctuating every month. So as you keep on doing the books and the chart of accounts, the great thing about the chart of accounts is it's uh, very user friendly. So you can either club categories later on, or you can separate the categories later on. So it's you can make those changes as you go. I don't like small businesses to drill down a lot of different categories, because it makes everything very confusing, and then it kind of hampers the consistency of how you are doing things. But the revenue accounts as well as the cost of goods sold, honestly, you don't have those many categories in that. The operating expenses is where I see a lot of businesses go crazy on categories. I think that's not the right focus. The operating expenses need not have like 40,000 categories. Those it doesn't even matter for taxes even if the categories change. But the focus should be on the revenue and the cost of goods sold, and then the bigger chunk of the operating expenses should be kind of clubbed together. That's my take on it as an accountant. But to each his own. That's what I like to see. in the
Thank
books.
you, Radhika. We have a question from Jody. Can I put FAMs into cost of goods sold? Is that the place where you would put it, or do you put it under operating expenses? Because
No,
FAMs
so
aren't really a cost of goods sold, are they?
FAMs generally what I see or what I feel is that those are some trips like a familiarization trip, so which is sometimes offered to you or always offered to you by the cruise lines or anyone. So you go there, get accustomed to everything, and then you take your next batch there. The next batch might be or might not be there. I think that it's kind of a marketing or advertising thing which has been provided to you, so you can take the next trips there. So more appropriate it should be in the indirect expenses. Later, cost of goods sold is generally directly related to your sales.
So
Okay.
what I think what Swagat wants to say is, see, fam trips are basically, when you go on that trip, do you already have, a person who has
Hmm.
bought that trip from you? Probably not. It's, you're going to a new place, trying to, find out if this is what, you would be selling in the future. So when you go on that trip and when you make those expenses, that is not directly related to the sale that you're making right now. So generally, we see that it fits more into the operating expense category because it's something that travel agents, do to keep on running their business, but it's not directly related to a sale that you made right now. So, that I wouldn't say that it's completely wrong if you put in cost of goods sold, but we would say that operating expense is a better category or better place to put those trips because before you
It's like
go on that.
it's like we accountants going to different regions for webinars or seminars or where we go and meet other CPAs or accountants and or
Correct.
clients, and then
Yeah.
we
It's
start.
an
It's kind of an
education. Right.
advertising.
Yeah,
Yes, so we
it's an
when
education
we walk
expense.
into set up a booth at an AICPA conference, we never put the expenses that we had for that conference. Even if we get a client there at that time, we are going to earn revenue from that client in the future months. So we would expense whatever we spent on that AICPA conference in the operating
Right.
expenses, but not the cost of goods sold.
Okay. So I have another question that has come in is why would we not categorize a FAM trip as travel instead of professional development? Travel is tax deductible. Is a FAM trip as professional development also tax deductible? And we already covered this in the other
Mm.
webinars. We talked about
It is
the
not,
tax
it is
deductible
taxable.
nature of FAM and its professional development. So I would definitely encourage you to go back and look at those. But if you, Radhika, if you want to just give a brief response to that, that would be great.
Sure. So we have added it in professional development because that's what IRS says. By the
Mm.
IRS rules, they have made it pretty clear. The rules say that fam trips are completely you have to pay taxes on
Taxable.
that. Those have to be a part of the revenue that you earn because that's basically free. A free trip that you are getting. So it's definitely taxable, and that's why it comes under professional development. It basically gives you a edge over when you're selling your product. I think it makes more sense, and it's also there in the IRS rules, so we would include in the professional development and not
Well,
as
there
a
are
tax.
expenses though related to FAM trips, and not all FAM trips are free. Sometimes they're at a discounted rate. So then it becomes just a straight expense, a marketing and professional development expense. So
Mm.
that's that's the other side of the coin.
It's
Okay.
situational actually. It depends every time on the type of the trip, type of the expense, how it is charged or how it is used. So it actually situational, but mostly it should be a professional level.
Okay. I'm gonna just go over one other question right now, and then we'll let you guys finish up, and then we'll circle back to some other questions. Um, Natan, I believe is how I'm pronouncing it correctly. Show us where to find the travel specific templates in QuickBooks. He was not aware that they were available. I don't know that there's actually travel specific ones. It's been a long time since I've set up QuickBooks. Perhaps you guys were referring to what you're showing here, which would allow you
Yes,
to set up your chart of accounts. Is that correct?
yes,
Yes, and
yes.
QuickBooks also has a lot of different industry specific chart of
Hmm.
accounts that it publishes. So you can go over and see those chart of accounts. But I'm not sure whether they are importable. Generally, we as accountants set up all the chart of accounts ourselves. We don't use templates, but we can definitely check on that. I'm not sure if you can import that, but that's how you look at the template and you kind of set up your accounts or make changes to the basic structure that QuickBooks has provided you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yes. So coming to the next slide.
Hold on. Okay. So this is basically, guidelines on for you to kind of keep the documentation or, the things that a business needs in sense that, if you're ever audited or, just information wise or document wise how to arrange everything. So we have given you like the main categories that we feel that as travel agents or travel industry you should have, which is the planning fees, commission, supply payments. We talked in depth about this during our first bookkeeping presentation, where we mentioned that it's best to have a log of everything on an Excel sheet that a business needs. I know it's difficult, but we talked about how that helps you guys, how the receipts and how keeping a record of all the expenses would help you in saving a lot of tax dollars. Quite a few businesses, because they don't have that track or don't have the Excel sheets or reports or the documentation, kind of go for the standard deductions. But we encourage businesses, those who can, to keep everything that you guys have. It would surprise you how much more tax friendly that can be than just to go with the standard deduction. So that's what this
Especially,
slide
yeah,
is.
especially when you go to client places for, I don't know, for making them understand your trip plan or itineraries and everything, you can claim those mileages and those travel costs in your expense side, but you should be keeping a track of that so that mileage can be used, your travel costs can be used accordingly.
And then, as we talked earlier, this also helps you reconcile everything that happens during a month. So it's impossible for any one of us to remember, exactly, what the $25.75 was spent on. But if you kind of have a record, or if you have a good accounting system like QuickBooks or Excel, where you have logs of everything that went through your business credit cards, then it would be very easy for you to close the books, reconcile everything, and say that, okay, this is all that happened, and these are the missing, payments or missing information that I need to look into. That way, you can actually compare. What was expected, what you expected your business to be this month, and what the actual was. That's the kind of start to budgeting, or to actually forecasting what's happening in your business. And we are going to go into much detail the next time we meet on the, on the cash flow, explaining to you how budgets work, or how forecasting works. But in simple terms, just having your receipts, having your sheets, having your, bank records in a place, and taking a look at them and reconciling every month is the very start of, you comparing your business to what was expected, and what you budgeted and what actually happened. Saga, do you want to
Okay,
take
so
over?
coming to the next slide. So this is about digitize and file for audit readiness. So everything you are doing, it is for two purposes. So it is one for tax purpose and one another purpose for bookkeeping or accounting is to have the clarity of the numbers so that you can take the informed and calculated decisions. So whenever, as a small business, there are very few cases when you are actually audited. If there is something fancy running behind the scene, then it would always be called for audit. But apart from that, the government or IRS is much lenient, and we don't see most of the time that small businesses are called for audits. But whenever you keep the records, you always capture the receipts immediately. So now, talking about the slides or talking about the numbers which are talking written here. So whenever you have any receipt, try to document everything. QuickBooks has a great feature where you can just take a capture the photo of the receipt and send it to the mail ID of the which is set up in the QuickBooks, and it would always be recording, or it would always be stored in the QuickBooks. So use that feature. You always capture your receipts as small travel bills, food bills, I don't know, tolls, everything else which you can take or keep a record of. Try to keep them in a file or digitize them. Then have a consistent serial numbers to name those files. So if you are not using QuickBooks and if you are digitizing and keeping them in a folder, always try to use or have a serial number for them, like date wise, year wise, month wise, or vendor wise. Anything which you can remember after 2 to 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. If something from the IRS comes up, then it should be easy for you to understand and clarify. Remember, every time the notice come, it's the onus is upon you to prove that you have done nothing wrong. It's not upon the IRS. So you should be backed up with the numbers, the receipts, the documentation, everything.
I will tell
And
Uh,
this,
you the one thing that my business partner, who is a lawyer, taught me. And I used to think that I was really organized, and I've been told that I have a really clean, organized mind, is file hygiene. So he calls it file hygiene, and we actually require a standardized method for saving all of our files inside of the company. So we always use a name and then a day, a month, a year, if there's a vendor involved. And then, of course, we do a lot of back and forth inside of TIS with review of documentation. So everything is draft. And then if you're going to, when you review the draft, you have to do it as a red line. So then it shows you have to send the red line over and the draft. And then they accept your red line and then they create their own red line. And there's a process until it's marked final. But we always have a
yes.
date and consistent naming. And I will tell you, it makes life so much
yes,
easier. And
Mhm.
then we always store all everything in a Google Drive, which has a very succinct structure. And so over the
Mhm.
last few years, I think I've gotten a lot better. And someone, Jody just mentioned that she was audited her first year of business. And I don't know what your file structure was like, Jody, but I guarantee if anybody has a file structure like this, they will be loved by the auditor and
Yes.
their CPA who has to help because it'll just make life so much easier.
This is, I think
Yes.
something
Peace of
so
mind.
small but so important. I've seen like a lot of business owners that we work with are serial entrepreneurs, and what happens is they have like so many documents of all the businesses, the bank statements, everything is just dumped into one folder, and then everything becomes like a huge task. So if I ask them for one thing, they just cannot give me that, because for that they have to go through hundreds of documents. And there are a lot of good software nowadays, which kind of tell you what are the duplicates that you have, which are the duplicate documents. It has become very very easy for you, that those kind of software will also name your documents. I wouldn't suggest putting something very sensitive on it, but for the general documents, bank statements that you have, those are very useful. And this would save you a lot of pain moving forward. If you have this habit, I see a lot of people download things, and everything is called download 1, then download 2, and download X, and we never know what's on our desktops either. So this, I think, Sheila, you're definitely a lot organized than a lot of businesses that we
Yes.
deal with. But I think this, as well as having different months, and your books and your financial statements in those different months recorded on your system, is most important thing when it comes to accounting.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so having the small documents is a far away thing, but what I have seen or we have seen is that small businesses actually tend to don't have their normal tax documents. So having the last year's tax returns, having the transcripts from the IRS, having the acknowledgement, the payment, what do you say, the payment receipts, also sometimes loan statements, many of them, so triple B loans. So whenever those were actually waived off, no one has a document about it saying that how was it waived off, or is there any acknowledgement for it. So these are the small documents or the major documents, I think, so that everyone should have them: bank statements, loan statement, interest certificates, and the last year's tax returns and the financial statements. So yes, so
And then
Radhika,
I
I
think,
think so. We
the backup on cloud is something that we suggest QuickBooks, because that's done daily by QuickBooks. So you don't have to worry about, your books or your documents being backed up. If it's on Excel, or, any other system that doesn't automatically back up, then we would suggest that you have, at least in a week you back up whatever bookkeeping you have done, so as to not lose the data and go back to square one.
right.
So the next is, I think, the monthly bookkeeping routine that we suggest. This is just, how an accountant would kind of break down on, having or maintaining clean books. You basically divide them in different weeks, and there can be a lot of different tasks according to your business that can, be on this list. But from our point of view, the main ones is to reconcile everything in the week 1, because you're basically closing the books for the previous week. You review your receivables and payables in the week 2 and 3, because week 2 and 3 is mainly where your business is operating, and you're generating the receivables, payables, or squaring them off. And then the week 4 is where you're kind of slowing down and closing the books and generating reports for more analysis of what's happening during the entire month. So as I mentioned, there can be different needs. There are a lot of businesses that we work with who would like to take a look at their PNL once a week, so their cash flows. A lot of businesses which don't have a great cash cycle, they also look at their cash flow daily. So it honestly depends on the volume that you guys are doing. If it's a small business, this is the structure that we would suggest, but it highly depends on what's going on in the business. So that's all from our end for today's discussion. We want to dive into the main parts of bookkeeping and beyond bookkeeping, which is the complicated cash flow and budgeting and forecasting. But we want to keep it as a separate topic because there's a lot more that we need to dive in.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, you guys. So, we've had someone ask or mention that they can't see the link in the chat. We've had quite a few people actually access that link. So, I'm not sure if it's because you're an anonymous attendee, but if you are unable to see the links in the chat, then you can also email us at hello@travelindustrysolutions.com. I'm also going to include it in the answer to your questions. So let me do that here as well. That's a duplicate. Send. Um, let's see. I did the download. I think that's what I just sent. What did I send? Um, here we go. Yep. In the download, there's also a link for the free consultation. As for some of the other questions, we're running a little bit behind schedule, and some of these are a little bit specific to the nature of your business. So, what I'm really going to recommend that you do is to sign up for a free consultation with Olaham. They can go over some of the questions that you have about paying suppliers for a tour and cost of goods related to that, your travel expenses related to getting to your fam trip. And then Nathan, you seem to also have a lot of questions. I would definitely recommend that you set up a consultation with the team, and they're happy to answer a couple of questions for you. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and close this out for the day. Don't forget that our next and final webinar is on February 13th, which is a Friday at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Um, you will get a reminder. So the email address, once again, is hello@travelindustrysolutions.com. I'm going to go ahead and put these in the chat as well for those of you who said you cannot see because you did arrive late. Angela, can you just please let me know if if you are able to see those links? If not, you can email us again at hello@travelindustrysolutions.com, and our team will send you those links to get the downloadable worksheets. And oh, great. Thank you, Angela. And also, you can schedule a free consult using a link on our website as well. There is a page dedicated to financial services. And if you are a current TIS member, you can find Olaham's information inside of your web application. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much.